you. I just got 5 minutes of life right there. I just got. Thank you.
Are you guys having fun? How do you love Dubai? I think it's fantastic. It's like everything's bigger, everything's better. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Technology here, you know, they're testing air taxis. Air taxis. I just have some real estate advice for you. If you're investing in real estate here in Dubai, buy the top floors of all the buildings, because you understand that's where the air taxis are going to be dropping you. It's going to move retail up to the top of every building. Technologies, I'm out for a run. I like to, when I go to a city that I'm not so familiar with, I like to go for a run. And I don't do it in the middle of the day here because I want to live through the lunch experience. But early in the morning at 5, I go out for a run. And this morning I'm out for my run as usual. And I come down to the end and I finish my run and I'm walking along, cool down. And I see this couple coming along and their little dog comes running up to me, comes running. I love dogs. I just love dogs. You know, there are dog people and cat people. People who have cats, they were looking for an ambivalent roommate that won't pay rent. People who have dogs were looking for a loyal best friend. And so the dog comes up and it starts yapping at me. But it's like, there's something wrong with it. Have you ever seen a dog with laryngitis? Never seen it before. And I'm talking to the dog, and then the couple ends up coming up, and they have a leash, so I assume it's theirs. And I'm like, oh, is the dog okay? Is the dog okay? And the woman doesn't like this question. I don't know why. She's got some charge. She's like, the dog is just fine. We had him debarked. You what? You had him what? Debarked. He was barking all the time. And it was disturbing everyone. And we couldn't get him to stop. So we had the surgery. The surgery? We cut out his bark box. Now I love training dogs. I know how to stop them. But you know, it's not my thing. It's not my deal. I don't need to argue with her about it. I'm going to walk away, but I'm not against stirring a little dissent. I turn to the husband and I go, how did you feel about the whole debarking thing? And he goes, I didn't have an opinion. So the point of this is technology is amazing, but sometimes we use it excessively. Is it true? Technology can be amazing, but I think sometimes we use it excessively. And so that's really what I want to talk about today is the incredible advancements that we've made in technology and the incredible benefit that it's created for us and the awful side effects that we are suffering. Because I want to check something out with you guys here. Vision said that we're in the last year of, I guess, sort of normal human existence, right? I would say that the last 10 years or so have been the peak human experience. And we have a decision now. We have a moment now where we can continue to make it better or something else is going to happen. And what I mean by that is that we are living in a time of the absolute highest degree of safety and certainty that humans have ever lived with. Is it true? It's true. Is it true? It totally is true. I'm not suggesting there aren't people that are struggling and suffering, but we live in a time now where there's greatest parity in education. Do you know that now around the world, on the average, girls get 11 years of education for every 12 that boys get. They're almost at parity. And in university, women are now ahead of men. There's less people by percentage living in poverty than ever before. How about this? Is life safer or more dangerous for children now on the streets of the world than it was in the 1970s? It's half as dangerous as it was. Everything, by every measure, except maybe the environment, is in better shape than it's ever been. But at the same time that that's going on, we have never seen the kind of levels of depression, stress, and anxiety and chronic disease. So wait a second, what's going on? We're living in the best times ever, and more people are killing themselves than ever before in history. Why? It doesn't make sense, does it? Unless it makes all the sense in the world. Do you want to know how to get a teenager to stop playing a video game? You make it too easy. When it's too easy, they stop playing. Canada and California both recently approved medical-assisted suicide. They have roughly the same populations. In the same period of time, in California, about 800 or 1,000, maybe 2,500 at top, depending on the time measurement, people have been approved for their medically assisted suicide. Does anybody know how many people in Canada have died in that same period of time by medical suicide? 50,000. We are living in a time when life should be at its very best ever, and yet people on the whole are suffering. And many of the things that Vishen spoke about today, that Dave talked about earlier, they're all part of it. And so now the problem is people are in pain and they're struggling and they're trying to find a solution. But the very thing that got us into this problem is looking for shortcuts. That's what started this whole thing. We invented the plow. How amazing was this plow? Can you imagine before the plow, how hard it was to grow plants? Now you've got the plow. And now you can grow way more plants and you can have way more calories and we can grow way bigger cities. But we also have metabolic disease and repetitive stress injury for the first time. And that just keeps happening. Every time we develop technology that makes things better, there are side effects. And the side effects are something that I would call the evolution gap. It's part of a concept called evolution mismatch theory. It suggests something like this. If you take an animal out of its natural habitat and you put it in the safety of a zoo, what should happen? Well, let's figure it out. We take an elephant out of the Kruger National Park. In the Kruger National Park, the elephant has to compete against other elephants. Lions are hunting its babies. There's rhinos to fight with. There's poachers. There's poachers all over the place. It's a terribly scary place to live. Let's take that elephant out and let's put it in a zoo and give it guaranteed food supply. Medical, it has medical. It's got water. It's got safety, no poaching. Which elephant lives longer? The one in the wild. In fact, elephants in slave camp conditions in Thailand live longer than zoo animals do because they're living something closer to their own life. And this is absolutely true across the animal kingdom. You take a great white shark and try to put it in an aquarium, it's dead within 3 weeks. When you take an animal out of the wild and you put it in captivity, it suffers. And you and I are all living in captivity. We eat what they tell us to eat. We do what they tell us to do. And we need to fix it. And how do you fix it? There's only one way to fix it, and it's called consciousness. It's everything that you're here about. It's everything that MindValley is about. You need to bring consciousness to it. And I'll give you an example. We all know that we need to be fit. Lorenzo's going to show you how to do it in 45 seconds. They're going to get the program even shorter. 45 seconds once a month. We know we need to get fit, but generally when people talk to us about getting fit, they talk about longevity, they talk about the visual side of it. It looks good, all this kind of stuff. I want to give you a different reason. Your body evolved a heart. Yes? Who has a heart? I need to see how many hearts. Mostly with hearts. Good. You evolved a heart. You evolved a diaphragm to move the air in and out of your body. You evolved those pumps because the need for oxygen is important and also urgent. So you couldn't wait for it to accidentally find its way around your body. You needed a pump to make sure it got there. Does this make sense? All right. Now you have a lymphatic system. The lymphatic system moves lymphatic fluid through your body and it cleanses you from the inside. It's incredibly important to your health. If you do not flow lymph, you die. But we never evolved a pump for the lymph. It's a problem. It's a little defect. We got to go back to the manufacturer. What's that? Where's my pump? I need my lymph pump. And the manufacturer says, no, you don't need a lymph pump because the way your body's designed, you have certain water and food requirements that will make you walk 10 to 15 miles a day, climb trees, lift rocks, and dig in the ground and hunt and stuff. And when you move around like that, you will move lymph around your body. And then Netflix and long car rides. And so now most people are not moving enough to cleanse themselves from the inside. You can go on all the master cleanses you like, but if you're sitting watching Netflix while you're doing it, you're missing 90% of the cleanse. You need to move your body. Is it true? There are many examples of this. I'll give you another one. Vishen is talking about stress. You know, there's this argument about does stress kill or does stress kill only when you know that stress kills? It's an interesting debate. I'll put it this way. Chronic stress is bad. And good stress, like intensive short periods of stress, is actually really good for you. It's really good for you. But the problem, you become afraid of stress. You turn good intensive stress into chronic stress. You understand? Oh my God, I'm stressed about something. No, great, I'm stressed. I'll be done with it in an hour when I'm finished with this thing. Only stress kills. Now you're over here worrying about, are you with me? But here's the funny thing about stress and the need for physical contact. Does anybody here need physical contact? Anybody need that? You need it, right? Yeah, you all do. Chimpanzees are fascinating. They're more like us than you could possibly imagine. I went to go see wild chimpanzees in Mahale. I was I was blown away by how similar they are. And they have a cultural thing. Have you seen them with the picking and the grooming? You see this? They do this. It's so cool. They do this picking and the grooming, but they have a political structure about it. You're only allowed to groom the chimpanzees that are of equal or higher rank than you socially in the group. Apparently, the chimpanzees invented the social credit system before the Chinese. You have to have enough social rank in order for the other chimpanzees to preen you. Do you know which chimpanzees live the shortest? The ones who don't get preened. It's an unbelievably evil Darwinian process of making sure they don't get to pass on their genes, but it's real. And so if you find yourself not getting enough touch, you have a problem. In the pandemic, I got separated by my family for 4 months. And I got separated from everybody for the first 2 months of that. No physical contact of any kind. And I started developing a problem in one of my knees, and I invited an osteopath once we were allowed. You remember when we weren't allowed to talk to other human beings? And I was allowed to talk to another human being, and I brought her to my house. And she put me on the massage table and she put her hands on my lower back and my tears started flooding down my face. I was like, what the hell is going on? It was like, I wasn't crying, but my body was. Such was the impact of no physical contact for 2 months. How do we fix all these problems? There's tons of them. Almost every problem in society is a result of this evolution gap. How do we fix it? Consciousness, becoming aware of the problem and then applying consciousness to this practical reality of it. Now, the problem for most of us is we're not very good at this. How many of you have ever intended, say on January 1st, to start eating better now? How many have ever intended this? And how many of you realized that by 12 o'clock on the first, it was already gone? Anybody had that experience? I've seen people set New Year's resolutions on December 31st, and at 2 o'clock in the morning on the 1st, they're drinking. You said you were going to quit drinking. I'll start tomorrow. Right? Intention doesn't work very far. In fact, a major study on diets showed that the average person will go on 2 diets a year for their entire life. 2 a year. And I mean, okay, but they'll only stick with it for how long? 7 days. So the average person is going on a diet for 7 days, twice a year for their entire life. They gain roughly 3 pounds every time they do it. This is a problem. Would we agree it's a problem? Diabetes and obesity rampant around the world. Clearly, there's a problem. So what I want to share with you is one skill in the short time I've got with you, one skill that can change everything. Who would like one skill that could change everything? How many of you have ever not done the things that you wish you had done? How many of you have ever done stuff that you later wished you weren't doing? Okay, let's fix that now. Anybody up for that? You don't seem all that enthusiastic. All right. What does promise mean? Shout it out. What does it mean? Interesting, powerful intention. No. That's what Hollywood taught you. Hollywood taught you that the word promise means I'll do my best. I mean, you see it all the time in a movie, right? The person goes, oh, I'll be at the party, I promise. Are they going to be at, it's a Hollywood movie and they just promised, are they going to be there? No. Bruce Willis in an unbelievable movie is a miner who's going to go up to space and stop the asteroid from destroying Earth. I think it would have been easier to train the astronauts in mining than to train the miner in astronauts. But that's a different story. He's going to go up and he's about to take off. And his daughter comes and says, Daddy, I don't want you to go. Liv Tyler, I don't want you to go. And he looks at her and he says, honey, I'll be back. I promise. And it's at that moment you realize he's going to die in space. Because the word promise in Hollywood has gone through a process of deflation. It doesn't mean anything anymore. And I discovered this when I was 21 years old, that people use the word promise and it had no currency. The real value you have, if you lose everything in your life, if you lose your money and you lose your network and you lose everything in your life, the one thing you've got is your word. That people know that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Is it true? And so at 21 years old, I made a commitment. That's it. No more promises broken ever again. I will never do it. I will never break a promise ever again. Oh, and by the way, which is easier to keep? The promise you make to other people or the promise you make to yourself? To other people, because you can always let yourself off the hook, right? No, my deal was never, ever break a promise of any kind ever again, whether I make it to me, to the universe, to the higher power, to my friend, it doesn't matter. And for an entire year, I didn't break a single promise, not one, not one. It was incredible. Anybody want to know how I did it? I didn't make any. I didn't make any. My friend would go, hey, are you coming to the party on Thursday? Yeah. Do you promise? No. What if Bruce Willis doesn't stop the asteroid? I don't know if I can be there on Thursday. I don't know for sure. How can I promise that? It's not, and if somebody says, oh, are you going to deliver that work product by Thursday or whatever it is? The only thing that I will promise is my intent in that case or what I can absolutely guarantee. Does that make sense? So after a year of making no promises, I slowly started making them. And I want to share this idea with you because if you incorporate it, you really, truly can change the trajectory of your life from here on out. You will remember this talk 10 years from now if you do this properly. And here's the deal. First of all, you only ever make a promise that you are 100% committed to keeping. That's the deal. You never break them, not to yourself, not to anybody else, which means you don't make very many of them. You only make them. And I'll tell you what, you start small because what you have is something called promise esteem. It's your self-esteem relative to the value of your promises. If you've been giving away promises like crazy, like LA is full of that. Let's do lunch. Totally, they're never going to do the lunch. Oh, we totally have a part for you in that movie. No, they don't. LA is full of it. So what we want to do is change that in our own internal cultures and in our culture as a whole. So you start like this. You make very small, manageable, incremental promises, tiny promises. Think right now of a promise you're willing to make about today. Something that you weren't going to do today, something maybe somebody you weren't going to call that you maybe know you should. Think about one. That's it. One tiny promise, a one-time action. Make that promise. Here's what'll happen. Then you deliver on the promise. And your promise esteem goes up a level, but I'm going to give you an ultimate hack that will make it better. How long does it take to create a habit? How long? Shout out the numbers. You've all heard them. 66 days, 21 days, 35 days, 7 days, 15 days. Fascinating. Atomic Habits, great book, talks about all the science on habits. But I believe that when people discuss this, they're measuring the wrong thing. It is not about the time. It's about the emotional intensity. You can create a habit in a single day, in a single moment. I want you to imagine a young rookie sports player, first year playing in whatever sport it is, and they get to play in the final championship game. And suddenly there's a moment where they have an opportunity to win the game, and that rookie wins the game. It's the most incredible thing. Does that rookie celebrate? Does the team celebrate the rookie? Does the city and the state and the country? The kid is elevated. The rookie's amazing. There's huge amounts of celebration, huge emotional engagement. Then that activates something in the brain that says, wow, I like this. What magic led to this moment? And the brain rewinds everything you did for the last 24 hours. This is how we remembered where we found the fruit, how we remembered our great hunting strategies, how we remembered how to survive in the toughest times in the course of history. Whenever we celebrated, we activate this chemical reaction that says, what did I do? And his brain rewinds and goes, oh my God, I know what I did. I tied my left shoe before I tied my right shoe. And then I banged my head on the locker. I remember I banged it and it hurt a little. Tell me that sports player does not, for the rest of his playing life, sit down before the game, tie his left shoe, knock his head on there for luck. Its behavior is locked in. It doesn't take 66 days to create a habit. It takes celebration. So you make a promise, you keep it, the smallest thing, and then you celebrate it, and then you make the next one. And I want to help you avoid some pitfalls because you see what will happen is at first, it's easy. And then you'll start to get really good promise esteem. And then one day you'll think, this is magic. I can transform my whole life with this skill. I'm going to make the most. And I did this. And I said, all right, Eric, I want to get fit. I promise I will work out every day for a year. Oh my God, that's a terrible promise to make. It's a horrible promise to make. First of all, 10X. I mean, you don't need to work out every day for a year. But secondly, Can you imagine what it was like for me? I was like living my life. Sometimes I was like, jet lag. I remember one night in particular, I landed in Sweden. I had flown all around the world. And I land in Sweden and I get to the hotel room. I barely walk to the bed. I get to the bed, I crawl in and suddenly realize I hadn't worked out. I got up, I got dressed, I went down and I worked out. So important it is to keep a promise, but don't make them too big that they could hurt you. All I want you guys to do today is make tiny, small promises to yourself and others and keep them and then build upon that. And nothing will ever be the same again. Thank you guys very much. It's an honor to be here with you.